Hi, this is a video that helps to look at how to analyze survey data. And I'm going to use as an example a survey that we did in around April of 2020, which was looking at the difference between Cal Poly and Cal State LA in the students' response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which was the shift from in-class instruction to online or virtual instruction. So we sent out a survey asking students to compare those two situations, and we asked them some specific questions. So this is a summary from that survey. So what you usually do in a survey initially is to indicate kind of the demographics or the data regarding who answered the survey, how many people, was there any way that you could split them by category. So in this case, you can see on the left here, I have the number of students that answered, and then here is a breakdown of the difference in the ethnicities and the genders of the students. And this is particularly important for this survey because if you look at this plot here, it very much shows the ethnicity differences in Cal Poly and Cal State LA. And then after you do that sort of breakdown of categorical data, you can go into sort of answering and analysis of the questions. So in this case, I have the data from before the pandemic, after the pandemic related to instructional effectiveness. And you see here, I have a significance test. This is a t-test, and I'm not convinced this is the right test I should have used for this, but I think it's important to use some sort of statistical analysis because if you look at sort of the differences in these values, they look different and you could pretend they're different, but you don't know they're different unless you use a statistical analysis. So if you're looking at sort of answers to survey questions, this is how you might indicate it. There's a bunch more survey questions. It doesn't particularly matter because I'm not really going through the analysis that I did related to this, but to show you how it is, you should include this in the analysis. And then the next thing I want to look at is how to look at qualitative data. So what I've done here is you can see this is kind of like a Pareto chart where I look at the responses that I received from students and I categorized them by sort of topic that was addressed. And then I counted the number of times somebody talked about mental health. Let me show you, I'm going to show you a little bit about what this looks like. So here is the Excel data sheet where I have downloaded all of the comments. So I downloaded them. This was done in Qualtrics, which is online, but it could be Google Forms or it could be SurveyMonkey or whatever it is we're using. I downloaded all of these, which is in column D, and there's a lot of them. And then I went through them and I categorized them. Like this one says, more guidance on how graduation steps and requirements are impacted by the switch to online courses. So I categorized that as advising. And I might have also categorized it as a secondary topic, maybe graduation, but I went through this and categorized many of these comments. Like this one, open communications has been helpful, so keep that coming. Regular updates in regard to timeline and such. So I really categorized this and I went over and over it many times. Ideally, when you're analyzing qualitative data, it's good to have more than one person categorize the topics so that you can double check to make sure that your interpretations are at least validated by two people. But what I did is I went through this myself several times. And then over here is I actually counted like how many topics talked about campus services. So I went and there was 2 topics on advising, 11 on campus services, finances. You can see there's a lot of topics on finances. There was 20 comments on finances. And then I translated that into this plot. And then, so I have these advising, there was 10 comments on advising. Actually, they said there was 2. That must not have been updated version of the data set. This is a more complete version. And then I put an example of this. Like, what do I mean by advising? An example of this would be more helpful assistance regarding tutoring, help choosing classes, FAFSA, and other help with dealing with this situation. So all of this is what I did. I did this for Cal State LA, and I did it for Cal Poly. So you could see kind of the differences in the responses. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because when you do a survey, you often have quantitative, like answers to questions. And then you also should include some sort of open-ended comments. And this is one way to evaluate these open-ended comments.